after years of video game journalist hacks attacking us and attacking the very industry that we all love and care about, they are now coming out playing the victim, saying that we as gamers are constantly mean to them and that it's time to start trusting them because it's a myth they complain about difficulty and they're humans just like you. I have a few things to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, there used to be an age where we would trust video game reviewers on sites like Kotaku, Polygon, TheGamer, but video game journalism has reached an all-time low, and people are no longer going to these websites for information. We only trust independent reviewers on platforms like YouTube at this point. And of course, because these journos are becoming more and more obsolete as the days go by, they are trying their very best to damage control and to keep their jobs. And now we have TheGamer putting out this article saying it's time to start trusting video game reviewers again, which will never happen, at least for me. They have proven too many times they hate us as gamers. They do not respect us or our opinions. And if you look at critic scores versus user scores now, they are typically vastly different, just proving that these people are completely out of touch with what customers actually want. But the highlights of this article are games journalists often meet difficult games but face criticism and abuse for their reviews. Abuse and criticism are not the same thing, but of course these individuals love to say that they are. The myth that games journalists hate video games is false. They are passionate about the medium, and to find trustworthy game critics, look for those with similar tastes and opinions to yourself. But the hilarious part about that is that sites like TheGamer, Kotaku, and Polygon, they only hire people with certain political opinions who want to push the same narratives as the higher ups. They are not hiring people who, go against the grain and go against their narratives, so they're not really fostering the word they love to use, diverse environment, because you can't have diversity and inclusivity by excluding certain people. But this is by BenSledge. It says, I get it, games journalists are terrible at video games. Remember the Cuphead guy? Let's ignore the fact that games journalists regularly beat entire games in a far shorter time span than regular people who don't have deadlines to meet. Turn a blind eye to the fact that they don't have a single guide to help them beat a difficult boss or access an area with some obtruse entry method like drinking poison that kills you at any other time. Forget about the fact that they beat them before the patches arrived to make the game easier. Of course, this all stems around Shadow of the Erdtree. Recently, From Software put out a patch that makes the boss fights a little bit more balanced, and now they're saying that they are like God's gift to the earth, that, oh my God, us journalists went through such difficult experiences in order to bring you guys guides, and that's why you should like us and trust us more. We didn't need the nerfed patch. I'm sorry, I didn't ask for the nerfed patch. I was having a perfectly fine time beating all of the bosses that are in Shadow of the Erdtree, like Mesmer and Dancing Lion. There are, yes, some people out there who felt the game was imbalanced and felt the boss fights were too difficult, and they are allowed to have that opinion, but that doesn't mean that you get to go around boasting about how, ooh, gee, it's so hard being a game journalist who has to play a game without any guides. I'm someone who live streams games, I'm someone who reviews games, and maybe once every 6 months, I will look up something from a game journalist, and typically it's not even from a site like TheGamer or Kotaku. I'll actually look it up on YouTube because I forgot which ledge it was to jump down and grab an item, or, oh hey, I know that there's a secret boss in this area and I really want to make sure that I don't miss it, and since somebody else has already found it, I can help myself save a couple of minutes and find it easier that way. And I do not think that game guides and, of course, game walkthroughs are bad things. I think that those are very good things because, yes, there are average human beings, average people who don't want to take 500 hours to find every little secret, and instead they want to see the list of content and then decide from there which bosses they want to defeat, which items they want to pick up. But it's just the narcissism that is blatant here. They are patting themselves on the back for simply having to do their job. Like, that's just, in my opinion, a way that you are going to get more people to trust you or ultimately like you. And of course, Cuphead, right? They do bring it up. The fact that this happened all those years ago was truly the point where people really saw journos for what they were, absolute losers. This happened almost 7 years ago, where Dean Takahashi could not get past the Cuphead tutorial. I mean, he was struggling and struggling and struggling. And this is what I and many other people think of when we think of video game journalists. Never mind the fact that they're supposed to be out there writing game guides and, they're supposed to be talking about lore, but instead they're sitting here attacking content creators. The Gamer recently put up a hit piece on anybody who simply said innocent until proven guilty when it came to the doctor disrespect situation. And they, made up a bunch of lies about Melanie Mack, a bunch of lies about me. They were attacking Nick Merckx. They were attacking Tim the Tatman. They were trying their very best to say we are disgusting people simply for sitting here saying, hey, we wanted more evidence, and we did get more proof. We did get more information. And there really is nobody defending Doc at this point, but did this article get taken down? Of course not. They feel they can just lie however they want and they're going to get away with it. And then, of course, we have the reviews like the recent Shadow of the Erdtree review that we got from Alyssa Mercante. And in this, she admits that in the past, until Elden Ring, she had avoided Souls-like. She had never finished a Souls-like. The punishing difficulty, rigid boundaries, frustrated her. She hit a wall in Dark Souls and gave up, barely touched Bloodborne, avoided Sekiro like it was a poison swamp. So that is the person who got to review one of the most hyped up DLCs to ever be released, and at this point the highest rated video game DLC to ever come out. And instead of actually allowing somebody the chance who knew Souls games to directly compare it to other Souls likes, nope, they gave it to Alyssa. And throughout this, she made it about herself, and she was playing the victim saying, oh, I've had to battle misogyny over the past couple of weeks, and people have been so mean to me. This is why people do not like journos. And yes, there are still some half-decent journalists out there. And then, of course, the ones that are independent reviewers and content creators on sites like YouTube. And of course, at the end of the day, you should find someone who you trust, even if it's not from a gamer, not a Kotaku, not a Polygon, if it's, a YouTuber like me, or maybe there is, one half-decent reviewer on one of these sites. Yeah, you should find someone who has similar tastes in games to you and opinions to yourself, but we don't need them to write a whole entire article saying, oh, well, they also are good at video games and they're humans just like you, and that they don't deserve to face criticism for their reviews when they do deserve criticism. You are a public figure putting up a public opinion that people generally disagree with. And of course, I had put up a Twitter/X post on this saying, yes, gamers, you should trust reviewers. It's a myth they complain about difficulty. They're human just like you, and people are roasting them and laughing at them. Savvy had said, there are so many brilliant personalities with a genuine passion for games on platforms like YouTube. That small YouTuber who speaks passionately isn't going to be beholden to a corpo or trying to suckle nuts for early keys. And this is another really good point. They do things in order to stay on companies' good side so that they don't make it on their shit lists. Look at movie critics, all right? They will say the worst of the worst movies like Eternals and The Acolyte are good simply so they can continue to keep getting early screenings of Disney's upcoming content so they can make reviews before everybody else. This is why we do not trust them. Christina Tasty said the ones that post screeds about how I'm a bad person for enjoying something as simple as a video game skin, those guys, yep, you're not allowed to praise sexy women in video games or dislike super freaking ugly characters in video games because that hurts their feelings. F corporate games journalists, they are useless and absolutely effed in the head. They aren't important in the slightest. There's a reason the term journalist mode hit gamer culture. I made journalism. This is another big reason why this story got wrote, is because there have been mods slowly going up for Shadow of the Erdtree that make the game easier, and one of them is called a journalist mode. It makes everything take 50% more damage. It makes you do 50% more damage. It just makes the game all around much easier, so you can actually kind of breeze through the DLC. And of course, journalists are now saying, I beat the game without the journalist mode. Yeah, but you guys are constantly the ones complaining that games should have multiple difficulties and they should have easy modes. There are modern games that have very easy and easy modes, and that's not for gamers like me. That's for gamers, in quotes, like them. So it will be interesting to see how else they turn their narcissism into articles going forward. If they continue to try to convince us we should trust them and that we should be nicer to them, all because they like games too. Even though they clearly don't like gamers, they constantly attack us and their opinions are pretty irrelevant. But that's all that I had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.